It's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare. It's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare. Bring it back, I'm stealing your joy. It's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare. We're killing them after cuffing, it's quite fair. Democratic, Republican fight, yeah. I'm living up in this nightmare. Nightmare. It's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare.
JGiddins family.
Nightmare. It's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare. It's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare. Killing citizens on live air. Big guns, militant eyes stare. The infantry that welcomes penitentiary lies here. And they sit in their wise chair and they like, I don't really care how it happened. All I know is that you're young and you're black, and the only thing that's gonna give your honor satisfaction is giving you these numbers so you slumber in your trap. What's up, guys? It is none other than your boy JGiddins the Father. I want to start off by, as usual, reminding you guys to be positive, optimistic, and keep positivity in your circle, as those three things are key to ensuring positivity is invited in your future. Now, I'm here to talk to you guys today about yet another incident of a police officer killing a civilian, right? And it's funny because the song, I don't know if you guys pay attention, but the song that I have in my intro is a song of mine that I made a couple years ago, actually, around 2016, called Nightmare. And the hook goes, it's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare. We're killing them after cuffing is quite fair, right? And this is exactly what I was talking about. So on Tuesday, January 28th at 6:58 p.m. roughly is when this incident took place that I'm about to describe. This happened kind of close to home, at least in proximity to me, in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is abbreviated as PG County for those of us who are native in Maryland. So in PG County, apparently, I recently, just this morning, as soon as I woke up, I saw a YouTube video where Prince George's County officials were, kind of giving details about what happened. But apparently there was a victim. A gentleman was killed by a police officer in the police cruiser. He was in the front seat of the police cruiser, handcuffed behind his back, and he was shot 7 times, right? 7 times, sitting in the front seat, right? So I'm just gonna gloss over some details from what I gathered from the video that I saw. I'll also include a link in the description to the interview that was conducted, and I would recommend that you guys take a look at it, as well as any other articles related to what's going on, so you can get further detail. Because I really just wanted to sort of gloss over what happened and give my perspective on what happened and how it relates to our society in general. Because this is what I talk about on a regular basis, right? So, Police Chief. Again, this happened on Tuesday, January 28, 2020 at 6:58 p.m. Now, Police Chief Hank Stawinski was sort of the person who led the interview that I saw conducted by the Prince George's officials. And the victim's name is William Green, right? He was shot. He was 43 years old. He was shot by Corporal Michael Owen Jr., which I was actually shocked was a black guy. And I'm not saying that, I don't want to go on the racist term, but I'm just saying I was a little bit shocked that that's what happened, and it brings so much more to the forefront in terms of what the possibilities are of what's going on here and why this happened. But again, the guy was William Green was shot 7 times, handcuffed in the front seat. Watching the interview, some things that I kind of want to touch on that really kind of hit home for me was, first off, I want to say Hank Stawinski. I really have a lot of respect for him as a police chief. I don't know anything about him outside of this, but I can say that the way he handled himself, the way that he sort of empathized with everybody as they were asking questions, and he remained, it seemed, neutral. He didn't seem like he was trying to cover for the cop. He said that he brought the charges within 24 hours of hearing about it. He was, not liking what he heard. He even went as far as to, say that some of the facts were altered, right? Because initially when it was reported, the police were reporting that, apparently there was some sort of a struggle that took place. They were reporting that PCP was involved, which is a drug that can sometimes cause like aggression and violence, right? And he dispelled all of those. He said that didn't happen. Basically he said that didn't happen. We have no evidence of that. This seems to be something that he should be charged for. I want to actually read one of his quotes. He said, "I'm unable to come to our community this evening and offer you a reasonable explanation for the events that occurred last night." Now, honestly, that might just seem like a Passover statement to some people, but that is monumental to hear a police chief say that about the actions of his own police officer. That very rarely happens. I can't really remember a time that it's happened, honestly. Normally, it's blue over everything. They're like a brotherhood family. So I was really shocked that he said that. Another quote that he made, he said, "I have concluded that what happened last night is a crime." Right? And he's talking about Corporal Michael Owen Jr., the police officer that shot the victim, William Green. And I just think that, again, we need to embrace the fact that this is happening. I think that this is going to be big. Like right now, it's just on local news from what I can see, and a couple YouTube posts. Well, not local news, because Washington Post is the source I got this from. So actually, it's spreading pretty quickly. But I think it's going to be a countrywide, national story, maybe even worldwide, because this takes the cake. We had more instances of this than I can count. Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Eric Gardner, Trayvon Martin. It's just, there's so many, and in those cases there were little like pockets of possibilities for them to say, well, I felt threatened by this. And Michael Brown, he was big and he was running. I thought something was wrong. Eric Gardner, he was fighting back. He was a big guy. I was trying to choke him. Freddie Gray, there's really no excuse for that one either, actually, but somehow they passed. But anyways, there's no pocket for an excuse in this case. The guy, William Green, was handcuffed, hands behind his back, in the front passenger seat, and got shot 7 times. Even if this guy was Bruce Lee and he knew some kind of, magic kick move, you can't explain why you would have to shoot him 7 times. Like, that was a murder. Plain and simple, right? There's no other way to explain that. The police chief again stated that the narrative that was previously recorded by police officers was altered, and I think that's a monumental statement. He charged the police officer with second-degree murder, and also I should mention that the police officer, whose name again was Corporal Michael Owen Jr., he did have a past, right? So in his history, he joined the police force. He joined the police force in 2009. And he's had, I think, 2 instances of shootings in the past, one of which was fatal. So this is not like, a guy who has like a perfect past, who hasn't done anything. I think that these are things that we need to consider. The state's attorney is Aisha N. Braveboy. It's a cool name. It's kind of contradictory because she's a brave woman, but her name is Aisha Braveboy. She's the state's attorney. I think she was there as well in the at the interview that I'm going to put in the description for you guys. I want to mention also, there was no body camera footage, right? So the police officer didn't have his body camera on. Go figure, right? You don't rob a bank and then have like Instagram on while you do it, right? So obviously that wasn't the case. The gentleman, William Green, who was killed, he was a megabus loader. So just to give you guys some, I guess, substance in terms of what he did in his life, he was a megabus loader. They did mention something in the article about him maybe, coming up for promotion and all that, but I don't really pay attention to that. That's politics. It really doesn't matter if the guy was getting a promotion or not getting a promotion or getting fired. It doesn't matter. He doesn't deserve to be shot 7 times in the passenger seat of a car. Nobody does. Even if he was homeless, never worked a day in his life. So I don't pay attention to those little political nuances that they tend to bring about. I want to also mention Bill Murphy is the attorney that was hired to represent William Green. Bill Murphy is the attorney who covered Freddie Gray and his instance of what happened in Baltimore, where he was attacked and assaulted in the back of a van, which led to his death by multiple officers. As far as I know, I think they got away with that, actually, which I won't even go into. That just brings even more sort of weight onto this, and it's going to cause more controversy behind this, because there's been so many instances where police officers have just killed people. In the past, it seemed to be racially motivated, which is why when I read this story, before I saw and heard who the officer was, actually before I saw who the officer was, I was already under the impression that he was probably white, or white lead. And in this case, it's Corporal Michael Owen Jr., who is a black officer. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't be racist. There are some blacks that are racist. If anyone who's familiar with slavery, with times of slavery, we're familiar with the term by the name of house nigger. This might be a touchy subject for some people. Those who don't know me, I'm not touchy about, race and speaking the truth and reality. You say, oh, how can you say that? I say, how can we not say that? There are people who literally had to go through these things. So anyway, a house nigger was someone who was fed food that was better than the other, blacks that were out there. And he was typically the guy who had lighter skin, right? So he would get the leftovers from the white family while everybody else would get just, scraps or not eat at all. And he was treated a little bit better. He was allowed to come in the house. Sometimes that ideology or that concept in modern times can compute in the world of law enforcement to Corporal Michael Owen Jr., right? I'm not saying that's the case. It's just an ideology you have to understand probably does exist. I don't have any factual, names and officer IDs to give you, so I can't really say 150% that I'm right, but yeah. So anyway, one thing that I wanna end on, or I guess kind of touch on and just elaborate on, is the fact that PG County Executive Angela Alsobrooks, that's her name, Angela Alsobrooks, which is like a silly name, and I feel comfortable saying that because I don't like what she said. So PG County Executive Angela Alsobrooks said she has asked Stawinski to review training procedures for officers. Now, even in my note when I noted this, I put SMH, right? And I shake my head because every time something like this happens where you have a police officer who blatantly just killed somebody, they resort to the statement of, oh, it's the training. Oh, we need to train more. Yeah, we just got to train our officers better and show them how to deal. Listen, you cannot train somebody to not be evil. You cannot train somebody to not have malintent. If a person wants to do something wrong, they're going to do that. You can't train that out of them. You understand what I mean? So, like, it's like if you were to hire somebody at Walmart or at a grocery store who's a thief, who loves to steal. And then they start stealing out of the register. And then the manager goes, oh, we're going to vamp up our training. And we're gonna train our employees so that way money stops coming up missing. Like, it's silly. Like, honestly, I feel like my intelligence is insulted a lot when I look at some of these types of public displays. A lot of times politics does this to me a lot. Like, it infuriates me because they talk to you as if you're an idiot. They literally talk to you like you know nothing. And the sad part about it is a huge part of our nation is not aware enough to be able to understand these things, and they can be controlled and manipulated. That's why members of Congress are able to get away with the things that they are. I won't go into that, though. That's a whole nother story. So again, guys, just to sum things up, Tuesday, January 28th, 6:58 p.m., victim William Green, age 43, was shot 7 times while handcuffed in the passenger seat by Officer Michael Owen Jr., and he was charged with second-degree assault. So right now, all we can do is just keep our eyes open, right? Stay aware and abreast of what's going on, and yeah, just this is something that affects the black community horribly. What I want to say to my brothers out there, man, and I know this is not relevant to specifically what happened, but like when police officers are approaching you and you think that they're some malintent or they're racist, or you think that they're going to mistreat you, I would just recommend that you just comply and get an attorney. You know what I mean? I know it's very hard because your pride as a man makes you want to go, who you think you're talking to? You know what I mean? I completely understand that feeling, but they're killing us, man. They're killing us. This is not something I would teach. I understand, how people feel enraged and want to fight back, and I know my rights, but I would not teach that to my son. You know what I mean? Because I want my son to come home. I want my son to come home. I want to fight for rights, and I want us to do what's right, but I want my son to come home. And I want you to come home. I want all of y'all to come home, man. I just want people to comply and then get an attorney, and we'll fight the legal battle. We'll try to fight it that way, but I feel like us trying to fight for our rights is just leading to us being killed, and the system is not set up to be able to administer justice accurately. So our responses to these things are, they're not they're not aligned with what the justice system can provide right now. That's why we're just seeing people die for the causes that, you know, you feel, but there's no hope of it actually changing anything, because the two haven't aligned yet. We have to overcome that first before we can sort of react in that physical manner that we would like to, or the way we would like to when these things are happening. You know, I think it's funny. I don't know if you guys pay attention to the song that plays in the intro, but it's a song called Nightmare that I wrote maybe, I don't know, I think it was around 2016 that I wrote this. I know it was around the Trump era beginning. And it's a song called Nightmare. The hook goes, "It's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare, where killing them after cuffing is quite fair. It's vivid, I'm living up in this nightmare, where killing them after cuffing is quite fair." I wrote that 4 years ago, and look where we are. You know what I mean? This has been a reality since I've been younger. You know, I grew up in the inner city of Baltimore, Maryland. This is not anything that's new to me in terms of this happening. You know, I've seen a lot in terms of police officers, you know, picking up guys, driving them around the corner, beating them up, bringing them back, dropping them off to send a message to the other guys. Like, this is something, it just happens. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate, but I think we're coming to a time where this all has to, you know, social media and the exposure of body cameras and things like that are making it a little bit harder for us to overlook it. And it's starting to come to a head. And I think people are starting to understand. We just have to make sure that we fight the good fight and do all that we can to promote these things and make sure that people promote awareness of what's happening. I thank you guys very much for checking out my video. As usual, please make sure to be positive, optimistic, keep positive people in your circle. Thank you to all of my supporters, and I love you guys. Until next time, it's your boy JGiddins out.